Hello, I'm going to do a 16,000 mile review on my Tenere 700. I did a 3,000 mile and an 8,000 mile review, so I figured what the heck, I'd go ahead and do this one. Right now the bike has a little over 17,000 miles on it, and I've used it both for touring and also for off-road. And what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, more focused, is the touring aspect of the T7. We all know what a great bike it is off-road. There's so many videos out there that show this thing doing all kinds of stuff. Just depends on how good a rider you are. But in my case, I usually have to travel at least 150 miles to maybe 500 miles to get to where I want to go off-road and go camping, that kind of thing. So it's got to be a comfortable bike to do those kind of highway miles, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the Tenere that way and what I've done to it to make it work pretty well. The Tenere, power-wise, is fantastic. You know, you can pass people with no problems. It's got plenty of power. I did put a 16 tooth instead of the 15 to just kind of bring the RPMs down just a tiny bit. Didn't affect the dirt worthiness of it at all. The bike, when you're going 70 miles an hour, gets about 50 miles to the gallon. If you drop below that, it increases substantially. It goes to 55 and 60 depending on what you're doing. But 70 miles an hour, it's about 50 miles to the gallon. Now, to make it a little bit more comfortable, I've added these foot pegs, which I talked about in one of my earlier videos. These are just some homemade ones that I put on there to give a little bit different foot position when you're on the highway. And then also added the air hawk up here. The air hawk is, you got to have, in my opinion. It's not the most comfortable bike without, it's a pretty hard seat, but with the air hawk it's fine. It just works great, no problems on the road. It's very comfortable. The windshield, I did add a little adapter up in the front, mostly because a buddy of mine recommended it to me. And it works great in the sense that on the highway and stuff, I get no bugs whatsoever on my face shield on my helmet. It either gets them on that little windshield up front or they go over the top kind of thing. So it works great. Suspension wise, on the highway or on as we all know, out in the dirt too for that matter. It's just you have to adjust the preload, you know, that kind of thing, depending on how much weight you have on it, that type thing. I did put a little extra heavier spring on it, and so for me, when I'm going off-road, I put about 6 clicks into it, and it seems to work fine. But on the highway, it's soft, it's supple, it's a great ride. One more thing I added for, I wish it had cruise control. That would have been really nice, but then the price would have gone up on it. But I did put one of those plastic cruise controls on it that fits over your throttle, and then when you get it to a certain speed, you just press it down and it holds it against the brake lever. And it works fine. It works great. You get up to about 70 and you want to lock it in, you push it down, and it'll hold it, but not great. Okay, in other words, it'll fluctuate kind of thing a little bit. But what's nice is it holds it at roughly that speed, and then when you go a little bit too tall or a little bit too low, you're taking a lot of pressure off of your hand. And so it's just a light touch that you're moving it up and down real lightly, and that throttle control thing works great. And I'll show it to you when I get over on that side. Luggage on the Tenere. I started out with Wolfman bags that you can see over here, and I had a TourTech rack that went on the side, and it works fine, no problems. I had a 70-liter bag that I put on the back. It worked fine, but I put an aftermarket muffler on, and when I did, it stuck out just a little bit too much, and I was afraid that I was going to burn through on my Wolfman luggage. So I got a Moto system, and the Moto system works great on this bike for me. It's like putting a saddle on a horse. It goes on the back here, and it brings all the weight forward from your rear axle, brings it forward into here. And so it gives you good balance on the bike. And what I found by experience was when you go down, if you have the Wolfman stuff on, The way it attaches, you can get one side of it off if you need to lift your bike up, but you can't get the other side off. And depending on how you put your top bag on, it's possible that you may not be able to take it off too. But with the Moto stuff, it comes in, you put all your stuff in these tubes that fit on the side, so if you go down, you just pull everything out, and it lightens the bike right up. Even if it's on its side, you can still pull the stuff out. And so I learned by doing that you can pick your bike up, and once you take your luggage out of there, at least for me, and the Moto stuff works really well. It's the 22 liters on both sides, and then a 20-liter bag on top. And it's got two 4-liter bags that attach to it down below, and then I've got some Army surplus molly bags, I think you call them, that you can attach to the top of these things for holding like beverage, and my jet oil goes on one side. So, you know, it works great for touring. The balance is really nice on it. It also leaves an open space in the back, so that what I usually do is put all my food and stuff in a dry bag and put it on the back of the bike with the Moto stuff on, and then I have a net that goes over the top. So it works great when you want to, if you're taking off clothing or putting clothing on, depending on hot and cold, you can take stuff off and put it underneath the net, and it's just a piece of cake. You don't have to open anything up or do anything like that. So it works out really well for me. And so from a touring standpoint, it just works great. Back to the maintenance part of it, I've had the Tenere in twice, once for the 8,000 mile service and then once for the 16,000 mile service. It was a little over $300 each time, and for me that was a wonderful thing. I was used to, if I took the BMW in, it used to be, you know, like $1,000 every time I took it in. And so I'm real pleased with the maintenance on this thing. I do the oil changes. So, you know, I was doing every 4,000 miles I'm changing the oil, which is, you know, no big deal. So I'm very pleased with the service aspect of this thing. I've never had to add any oil to it other than when I do the oil change. When I had my KLR, I used to have to carry a quart of oil with me because it would go through a quart like in 500 to 700 miles. So I'm real pleased with that. Maintenance-wise, what else? Tires. My original tires lasted for the rear tire for 8,000 miles. The front tire I replaced at 9, but it probably really didn't need it. The stock tires, the Pirelli STRs, work fine. They're really good on the road. They grip well. They're not noisy. And I was really pleased with those tires. I did want a little bit more though, going out in the dirt, so I put a Motoz tractionator on the back and a Shinko 804 on the front. And so it does make a little bit of noise on the highway, but I wear earplugs anyway, so it's no big deal. It's not a bother at all. And so I'm really pleased with that. The chain and sprockets have, like I said, a little over 17,000 miles on it, and they still seem to be in pretty good shape. I do try and keep it, you know, fairly clean. I do have one or two links that are, you know, a little bit stiff, if you will, but otherwise not too bad at all. And I did add a chain guard down below here because it is such a long throw on this thing. It just seems to help it feed a little bit better. And I got an aftermarket one. I can't remember if it was at Rocky Mountain or Chat Moto, one of the two, but it was like $30 cheaper than what Yamaha wanted for theirs. And so I put that on, and that works real well. Okay, this is my cruise control. It's one of those plastic $20 ones, and what you do is when you have your throttle back, you push it down and it rests against the front brake lever, and it'll hold it there. And so it takes all the strain off of your hand, and you just need a little bit of a touch to either move it up or down. And the other thing for touring, this adapter right here, I run both my GPS and my phone off of this adapter, and it works great. It works really, really good. The other thing I did was the brake on this thing used to sit down pretty low, and so I adjusted it up higher and then added this so that it's you know, about even with my footrest. And the reason I did that is it was when you go to press on that back brake, either on-road or off-road, it was too low, and you know, everybody complains about the brakes, but when you raise it up, it works just fine. And it gives you that leverage that you really need, and you can you know, you can skid that back tire any way you want to. These are the Moto bags, and like I say, it's like a saddle that goes on the back of my bike. You have two 4-liter bags on the bottom. You have 22-liter bags on both sides, and then a 20-liter top case bag and a bag for your tent stakes. And It works great. It really does. If you go down, it doesn't matter. You can just pull these bags that have all your stuff in them. They just slide right out. It just makes it that much easier to pick up your bike. So that's why I went to this system as opposed to the other one. When I went to the Moscow Motos, I did have to change my rack system. I bought a Tusk rack from, I think it was Rocky Mountain, and it works great. The Moscow Moto slips right over. I have a tail bag on there right now, but that comes off. And the rack system works best for long distance stuff, and putting the Moscow Moto on there works really well. And that's pretty much everything on the bike that I've done to it. So I'm pretty pleased with the Tenere 700, both off-road and on-road. For me, it just works great. It fits really well. It's got plenty of power. It's great. For adventures, I've had some really good ones. And I'm totally pleased. If you have any questions or anything I can answer for you, feel free to put a comment down below and I'll get back to you. Thanks so much for watching.